following is a presentation of the Alliance-Wrestling.com.
What do you make of all this, Dave?
I'm sorry?
What do you make of all this?
Oh, it's really cool. You know, something that takes 3 years-ish. We've been working on this project for about 3 years, and here we are, days away from making history in the United States by being the first television pro wrestling broadcast to originate from China. WWE hasn't done it, Impact hasn't done it, W never did it, and our little company that could is. So I'm very excited, proud, a lot of hard work went into making this happen, and I'm happy to provide. So let's see what happens.
Hey, what's up, fellas? It's your boy J Cal, and this is the Pre-Party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. Of course, I'm J Cal. Sorry about the voice. I'm a little under the weather. Turns out Arizona wasn't so kind to me. Great visit. Everything went well. except for my voice kind of disappeared on me. So you're gonna have to put up with a little bit of a more of this rugged sounding voice than usual. But yeah, I'm here. And if you guys joined us late, you missed out. I kind of showed a 4-minute clip from my time in China, because just this past weekend marks the 6th year anniversary of the National Wrestling Alliance 10 pounds of gold title defense in China, the first time ever. It was a matchup between Colt Boom Boom Cabana and Nick Aldis, the reigning at the time world's heavyweight champion. The event was put on by Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, along with an international promoting consortium, basically backed by Simon Inoki. And what was really cool about that experience is that your boy Jay was there. I flew to China literally with the crew. I got to be a part of the experience. I was down ringside for photography, but more than just taking photos, I was there as part of the experience. Like, I got to be with the promoters, with the wrestlers. I got to see a lot of what was happening, what was going on. And, that video clip showed, photos kind of like this one where the wrestlers were there with the sponsors. The sponsorship was this energy company. And I have no idea what that drink was. It was pretty terrible, but I absolutely loved the logo. I wanted to steal that for an Alliance logo. Never did. The amazing part was when I was there in China, aside from the culture shock, it was a very unique experience. There was a press conference. Here's a photo of Watts and I in Town Square and downtown Wenzhou, the marketplace. It was a very fun and unique experience. One that luckily, I got to make. I know most people will never get to go to China, but it was really cool just being in that area and, seeing the reaction that people had to the wrestling. Like, we even went to a nightclub one night, and we were pretty much drinking on the house because of the wrestlers that were in town. And so that's a photo of us all at a downtown club there in Wenzhou. Had free dinner, literally eating pizza. This was kind of funny, and Heather Monroe allowed me to take this photo. So, yeah. So it was a good time in China. It was this was one of the graphics that the local promotion used because I guess they didn't have the NWA logo. One thing that I found was so awesome was this fan literally had a replica of the 10 pounds of gold, and it was a sharp looking belt. We asked him how much he paid for it. He spoke a little bit of English, and he basically said about 500, what would be the equivalent of 500 American dollars. And this was also the trip that I bought myself a knockoff Captain America Optimus Prime type Transformer truck. I still have it here somewhere. Not sure where it's at the moment. But the venue was so cool. It was a good place to see wrestling. It's kind of funny. There's a story that Colt Cabana and Dave Lagana were walking in the Walmart, and some guy was trying to sell them tickets to the show. And it's like, dude, he's on the main event. So it was a lot of fun. And then Lamb says the Ty Matthews doppelganger. So the joke was that the original tag team partner for Watts at the last minute did not have a visa to go to China. And like, as somebody who was invited to participate in this trip, you had to get having a passport's a non-negotiable, but for some countries you need to actually have a visa. So I had to go get a tourist visa before I left. And I had to do this like months in advance. The show was in April. I think I got my visa sometime in February. And so it wasn't a hard thing to do, but you actually had to go do it. And the funny thing about it is, so this Barrington Hughes was his tag team partner. Barrington Hughes is a guy who I think wrestles mostly in Florida, big guy. And it was supposed to be Hughes and Watts to take on Reno Scum, who were the United Wrestling Network World Tag Team Champions. But he didn't get his he didn't get the visa. He just had the passport. So he was denied access to go. And so at the last minute, we were searching for a replacement. And I was on my phone messaging people. Like, I was messaging Sigmund. I was messaging Chase Owens. We were trying to get anybody who would be willing to go to China for this tag team match, and eventually they landed on Alex Chamberlain, who again also wrestles out of Florida, to be Watts' tag team partner. But the gag was that if no one was going to show up, I would team as Jake or Jay Matthews, Jarek's twin brother, and I would have just stood on the outside, much like Jarek Matthews does in the shirt and tie, and I would have just been come in for a quick bump and run out of the ring. Thankfully, it never came to that, but it kind of would have been cool if it did happen. But Watts is a good dude. I love Watts. If I see Watts, I give Watts a hug. He's my guy. Paladin says, I can go. You just don't want to. Yeah, well, no. Paladin, I was eating Chinese food. The restaurant actually, so I'll be honest, it was such a weird situation because you're kind of at the promoter's, you're kind of there until they want you to be somewhere else. So like the first day we flew in, we all crashed in the hotel room. It was a 16-hour flight. I think it was 16 hours. I was sitting next to Heather Monroe, so it was kind of fun. We had someone to talk to. But it was a pretty much, quiet flight. And, we lost a day in the air. When we landed, we all went to the hotel room. We crashed for a bit. We went out to dinner, and the sponsors wanted to take us out to a restaurant. So I'm thinking Chinese food. Dave Marquez was literally telling me the last time that he was there that they were eating like, the extreme stuff like monkey brains or something like that. I don't know. And I was buying into it. I was like, okay, well, I'll take one for the team. To my surprise, we go to like what's basically a pizzeria. The only difference is they put like cheddar cheese on the pizza, which was fine, tasted fine. But there was a point where some of the food that they were offering, they'd put food out. And if you kept eating the food, they would bring more food. If you drank all of your beer, they would bring you another beer. So I'm like 4 or 5 beers in. I'm just cleaning my plate because mama didn't raise a quitter. And I always grew up, you had to clean your plate. So I'm eating pizza. I'm eating fish. I'm eating chicken wings. I'm killing chicken wings. I ate everything they put in front of me, and it was... It was a lot. Dave Marquez looks at me and he says, stop eating. And I'm like, what? He goes, we'll be here all night. Stop eating. Okay, Dave. And then they had like the hotel, which was a 5-star hotel, is the Shangri-La. I think that's kind of a brand. But anyways, they had an all-you-can-eat buffet breakfast, which had lots of Chinese food that I ate for breakfast. But those were I only had 2 dinners while I was there. We were there for like 4 days, and one day I didn't eat anything. I just slept the entire day. But then one day we went out with the sponsor, and then one day they brought us McDonald's, and the day of the event they brought us McDonald's. So that's pretty much what I ate. But the buffet Chinese food, I was just eating fried rice and the lo mein. It was pretty awesome. But the day before the wrestling, we all went down to the 4 of us went down to the marketplace, and it was funny because I was so dependent on my phone for internet to translate, to speak to people, and there was no internet downtown, no free Wi-Fi. So it was funny trying to communicate with people. You always take for granted when you travel abroad, how hard it is for people when they come to this country that don't speak English. It's very, a lot of times we get frustrated. Like, why don't you speak the language? But then when you're in a foreign country, you don't speak it. You feel like I felt like an idiot. It's part of the reason why I learned Spanish, because I want to be able to communicate with the people when I go to Mexico, because not only for vacation, but I go to Mexico a lot for Lucha Libre. Anyways, that's a lot of talking about something that happened 6 years ago, but it's something that was one of the coolest things that I've ever done. I got a lot of credibility from wrestling to go down there. Dave Marquez was very kind to let me go down there. I did pay for my own flights. I did pay for my hotel. I wasn't on the payroll. I did get my food for free, though. I didn't pay for any food, so that was kind of cool. I did pack a lot of beef jerky and peanuts just in case I didn't like the food, but It was pretty good. Willie's making me hungry now. Almond boneless chicken with chicken fried rice, shrimp egg foo young with shrimp fried rice. Sounds pretty good. Yeah, Lamb. Lately I've been doing the vocabulary. I like learning new words. That's what I've been spending my time on. Yes, and then Adam Thornstone, he retired, and then he kind of took it back a little bit because he's going to have his final match against Hobbs at West Coast Pro Wrestling. I kind of wish I could get up there to see it, but I can't make it happen. Thornstone has been a very cool dude. I got to hang out with him a lot, him and Lester in China, and that was another sight to see because, again, when you show up to China with a guy like Watts, who African-American is not a very common sight to see in China, and in one show he was the only black person I saw the entire time we were there. And he's a tall guy, so it's not like he's inconspicuous. So he walks in the room, and during breakfast, everybody's head turns to look at him and just stare at him. And you think, well, that's going to be the weirdest thing I see all day today. And when you're living in China and seeing a black man walk into the room, and then you see Reno Scum with Lester, who's got a full-on mohawk, and you got Adam Thornstone wearing I could only consider them women's pants. It was just very tight pants on this guy. And it was just a sight to behold. And then everyone stopped looking at Watts and started looking at those guys. And it was funny. It was awesome. And while I was there, I got to hear about the plans for All In that were hush-hush at the time. But that's where they were originally negotiating a 3-match deal with Nick and Cody, that it was supposed to be All In, 70th anniversary show, and Ring of Honor, Madison Square Garden. That was the original plan, but did not happen, obviously. And it was funny because I was there. I was hearing the conversations. I literally heard Dave Lagana put his messages on speakerphone. It had him speaking with Cody. It was like a voicemail from Cody about what the plan was. It was really weird. And then a lot of times for some reason, we didn't see Aldis all morning, and then we didn't see Barbie Hayden for a long time. Not that I'm saying anything. The McDonald's were just like American McDonald's, except for I think the quarter pounder had I think avocado. No, it had bacon on it. That was the real difference. It was good. The foodalliance.com that might be the next podcast. We just might do a cooking show. Too many foods. Anyone prepare for Tyrus's Food Network culinary special? Yeah. Let me see. Can I pull up this other picture? Did I pull it up? I'm going to pull it up just because I thought it was funny. Maybe I can't pull it up. Oh yeah. It's the photo that's here. Okay. So this photo, I'm going to try to pull it up again. If you look in the back behind the pizza, you'll see fruit with white stuff on it. Now, I thought that was, when I ate that, I thought, oh, it's going to be some sort of icing because, Americans love sweet stuff. So why wouldn't they put icing on top of their fruit? This is going to be delicious. Yeah, that was mayonnaise that they put on the fruit, guys. That's freaking mayonnaise. It was the worst. I almost threw up. I was like, no, why would you do that? But yeah, it was a good time in China. And I just wanted to share that because it was, I feel like the NWA never really celebrated that the way that they should have. I felt like that should have been a time for them to celebrate their accomplishments. Yes, this was a Dave Marquez produced event, but that I don't know that matchup works without something as prestigious as the 10 pounds of gold. Nick Aldis is a great wrestler. That match could have been Adam Pearce and Colt Cabana, and I still think people would have cared because of the 10 pounds of gold. It had to be the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. And it's funny because Harley Race, his only regrets as world champion, because he took that title everywhere, is never being able to defend the title in Russia or in China. And that's two places that the 10 pounds of gold had never been defended prior to that, except for when Aldis and Cabana came in. Now, it's not the first time the NWA has had matches in China. It's not even the first time in this decade. There were NWA matches in I want to say 2010 with NWA. At the time it was called NWA Mid-Atlantic, and they had their versions of their titles there in China. But this was, again, the first time that the 10 pounds of gold had been in there. They don't celebrate it because it's a Dave Marquez production and Lagana thing. Yeah, that's probably more accurate than I want to admit. And then Paladin says, how far do you think the NWA has come since then? Huge leaps and bounds. But I think had All In not happened, right? Like, let's say that Cody and the Bucks never went for Beyond the Status Quo. We never had the All In event. Then the biggest event of that year would have been that showdown in China, that match between Aldis and Cabana in China, because what fueled the 70th anniversary show, which I think was going to happen regardless of whether Cody was going to be involved or not. But I think that show was built on the backs of Cody being world's heavyweight champion, right? Like, Cody was a big deal. When Cody won the title, that was a very, very big deal. I know a lot of people think, well, Cody, at the time wasn't as big of a star. No, he was a huge name in wrestling. And before touching down with the NWA, he had been already competed in Impact. He had done stuff with Global Force Wrestling when those were two separate organizations. He had also been wrestling in New Japan. He'd been wrestling with Ring of Honor. He was vying for the head of the table, if you will, for the Bullet Club. I mean, he was a big, big deal. So him being world champion leading into All In, or winning the title at All In, and then the 70th anniversary show was a huge, huge deal. And had Cody not been a part of that, had Nick Aldis not been a part of All In, that match in China would have been the biggest thing that they did. I mean, those were three really big things that happened to the NWA in 2018. Aldis defending in China, Cody winning the title in All In, and then Aldis retaining the title, or regaining the title in Nashville. Those were very big moments. And but if we didn't have Cody's involvement, Cabana and Aldis would have been the match. That would have been the thing that the NWA could hold their hat on. And I feel like because Cody was involved, it really propelled the NWA much quicker, much faster than I think anyone had anticipated, because then that fast forwarded them to the 70th anniversary show. That was in 2018. And then 2019, you had the New Year's pay-per-view, the pop-up pay-per-view. And then you had the Crockett Cup. And then you had your first episodes of Power taping in October. This is September 30th and October 1 of 2019. And I really feel like that was a huge mobilizer for the NWA. And again, that was based on the hype that Cody brought to the NWA. Aldis versus Cody was fire, both matches, but All In more so. Yeah, I mean, All In was the moment. Aldis played his role perfectly, but that was a moment of putting Cody over. And I think that was a huge deal. What's the big deal of going to China? I think significantly, it's a kind of first of all, China has a huge population. If there is a wrestling promotion that can figure out working in China and bringing, mainstream wrestling to China, I feel like that would be a very lucrative move for that company. WWE has had some success doing events in China, mostly Shanghai, but it's not something that they have mastered. And it's kind of like a brave new world. When I was there, they had mixed a little bit of shoot, like a shoot fight, a worked shoot fight into the wrestling. Like, they had like MMA fighters who were kind of working. And so the fans really didn't know what wrestling was, and they didn't know how good it was how the fans were going to react. And now, I'll be honest, the worked MMA stuff fell flat. Nobody gave a shit. It was terrible. And I liked two of the guys that were doing it. The other guy I didn't care so much for, but it just kind of fell flat. But when they got to the wrestling, the fans really got behind it. And that was Heather Monroe, Barbie Hayden. That was Reno Scum, who got over huge with Watts and Alex Chamberlain. And then, of course, Aldis and Cabana really brought the house down. And the fans got into it, man. And it was, again, they were doing something that it wasn't super familiar to that audience. The fans there didn't really know what wrestling was. Some of them did, but it wasn't a big. It's not like how it is here, right? It's not like how we have the WWE and now we have AEW and TNA, and not only that, but countless indies. Like there are like maybe 3 wrestling promotions in all of China, all of like mainland China. So it's like it's not something that you see a lot of. It's still very new. Let's see. They don't allow companies to go there. It's kind of hard. You have to. It's not just showing up. It's a lot of relationship building. Marquez, like the video, if you go and watch the beginning of the show again, Paladin, Marquez spent 3 years working on that relationship. And even before that, him and Inoki go back way back to the New Japan dojo that was in Los Angeles. Dave Marquez helped run the original dojo. Yeah, they do have some wrestling, but it's not the same. Like I said, it's not anywhere near what the level it is here. It's hard to sell wrestling in China because other sports like soccer are much easier to sell due to the world popularity. Exactly. Soccer, football, baseball, basketball is real big in China too. Golf. But this is again, pro wrestling is not, it's sports entertainment. It's not legitimate competition. It's not MMA fighting, right? It's a worked vehicle. So, yeah. Beginning in mid-2000s, the United States-based WWE expanded its market into China by performing several house shows in Shanghai and Beijing. Yeah. So they do have some wrestling, and the WWE does make appearances there, but it's not like what it is here in the United States or really anywhere else in the world. Like, if you look in the UK or Mexico or Japan or Canada or places where the WWE regularly runs, there are other wrestling promotions there. There are maybe smaller ones, maybe independent promotions, smaller indie wrestling promotions. China doesn't really have that. And like I see that you said dragon fighting, wrestling, Middle Kingdom wrestling, Oriental wrestling, entertainment, but it's not a lot. And especially when you're talking about the billions of people who live in China, that's not a lot of options. And plus, it's a state-controlled country where the media is controlled by the state. The buildings are owned by the state. So like you have to have a good relationship with the people there to get pro wrestling there. And like I said, Dave Marquez spent 3 years along with Simon Inoki working with local promoters to bring that event there. The idea was that they wanted to do that like kind of regularly, but obviously that didn't happen. China spent 200 mio alone in soccer in early 2010. I'm not sure what that means, Lamb. Does that mean 200 million? And that doesn't surprise me. Why didn't that happen? I just feel like maybe that the interest wasn't there. Maybe it didn't do big enough business for them. Like I said, it was a big arena. It wasn't sold out, but there was a lot of people there, probably close to 4,000 or 5,000 people. But again, all this stuff takes time and money, effort and energy, and I don't think the NWA or Dave Marquez was willing to invest a lot of time or money into that project. It was cool that it happened. It'll be neat if it happens again. There is affiliations with the United Wrestling Network currently in China. Middle Kingdom Wrestling, as Lamb pointed out, has ties to the United Wrestling Network at some points. They had both the Rock Nest Monsters, that's Johnny Yuma, and Kevin Martinson had appeared there. Peter Avalon had appeared there. And I think there was discussion before the global pandemic to do more. Obviously, that stopped. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if it picked back up again, especially with the way things are heading for the United Wrestling Network. Things are looking bright for Dave Marquez. If these things land, it's going to be pretty good. Yeah, 200 plus million before they realize their own homegrown talents don't benefit from it. There you go. And that's the thing too. They wanted to, as James H. Jackson said, the Oriental Wrestling Entertainment was trying to establish Chinese local wrestlers, and they had some minimal success with it. I think CIMA from Dragon Gate was working with those guys to help get some local talents ready. It just never really kind of materialized. Oriental Wrestling Entertainment was one of the early partners with with AEW, but then that whole relationship fell apart. I think the whole Oriental Wrestling Entertainment company fell apart. With that being said, like Middle Kingdom's still there, and I don't. There was another promotion too. I can't remember the other name of the promotion, but it's a brave new world, and it's something that could make sense for the right people, and it could have a huge dividend if people are willing to invest. The WWE doesn't do anything unless they think they're going to make money doing it. They don't go to China unless they think that they can benefit from that, and in some ways they did. John Cena has done a lot of movies and commercials for that market. So, yeah, Oriental Wrestling Entertainment. Yeah. That being said, that was, again, 6 years ago, and the NWA has definitely taken a different direction. Obviously, with that push that they got from Cody Rhodes, they started doing their own television. Their pay-per-view started picking up, and even during the pandemic, they got back to it. They didn't really rely heavily on the United Wrestling Network at that point. Got to keep in mind the Primetime Live series was kind of like the death knell for the relationship between the UWN and the NWA. And Dave Marquez has famously said on this podcast that that's where a lot of the problems came into. Of course, Aldis wasn't happy with the production of the show. There was a lot of questions about who was paying for what. And although every title had changed hands seemingly on the Primetime Live series, it wouldn't. The relationship wouldn't continue after the pandemic. Towards the end of the year, the NWA had pulled all of its content off of YouTube, and then came back with their specific relationship with Triller, formerly known as Fight, and was airing their show exclusively on Triller. Their pay-per-views were on Triller. That was part of the whole NWA membership, where you paid X amount of dollars and annually, and you got all the content included in that with the pay-per-views. That would change to a YouTube and Triller relationship, where the pay-per-views and the episodes would be available on Triller, but you could also watch the regular episodes on YouTube. And then last year, that relationship ended, and they moved all of their content exclusively to CW. And it's kind of hard to see where that is going, because we don't get numbers. We don't know what the views are. We don't know how we don't know how the numbers are impacted by the signature live events versus the regular TV tapings. What we do know is that, they're in Duluth, Alabama for Hard Times, and they had a great crowd on hand. We showed this photo a couple weeks ago, but, just going back to that audience, I mean, look how packed that arena is for the NWA. Like, that's not AEW, that's not WCW, that's not WWE. That is the NWA, and that is pretty freaking amazing, if you ask me. And it shows what an upswing that the NWA could be on. I really feel like they're heading in the right direction when you could sell that many tickets. And of course, they did so well that they've already planned their return to Duluth in December as they celebrate Looks That Kill. I said Duluth, I meant Dothan. So yeah, big times ahead for the NWA. More of your guys' comments, though. The OVW website URL now points to a food company, so it seems like Jay said they're finished. John Cena is the greatest ice cream commercial ever. Don't forget, they still can figure out India despite Ring Ka King and Jinder Mahal as WWE champion. Yeah, I mean, India would be a great market too. And that's the thing, these areas where there is a growing economy are excellent places to start businesses. It's excellent to if you can catch on in these areas. And yeah, that's why Jinder Mahal was champion. That's why TNA Wrestling did form Ring Ka King. Corgan struggles not to be a prick. I mean, like you said it, not me. Lamb says, should install Lagana back or hire Scott D'Amore. If I was the NWA right now, I certainly would be on the horn with Lagana, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. As far as Scott D'Amore goes, I mean, there's two things that I think about Scott D'Amore. Number one, if I was AEW, I'd consider hiring D'Amore as a consultant because he was able to bring TNA back from on the verge of extinction, where nobody was talking about TNA. When he came into it and took over after Dixie was gone and Billy was gone and everything else was gone, it took time, but he really made TNA a must-see programming. And then when you look on the flip side, with the WWE, there's still more things coming out about McMahon. There's still more things about people coming out and allegations. And it's hard for me to believe that Triple H is going to be unscathed in all these allegations and all this stuff. And it seems like to me, if I'm TKO, what would be a great idea would be to hire Scott D'Amore right now, today, and have him as a consultant for when the time comes. If something happens where Triple H gets thrown under the bus or Stephanie gets thrown under the bus and they have to remove them from the corporate structure, you could slot Scott D'Amore right in there and he could take over. And I'm not saying it's going to be just as good as it was with Paul Levesque, but I'm saying that's a great safety net to have. If you're AEW, if you're WWE, what's another salary for a guy who could really help run the show if something bad were to happen? And back in the day, Vince McMahon, when he was going through his allegations back in the day with steroids, I mean, he had Jerry Jarrett under contract just in case if something happened. If he was found guilty and thrown into jail, that Jerry Jarrett was going to run the WWE. So it's not like it's not crazy to have that backup plan. It's weird watching Hard Times in sections. Yeah, it is. And that's one of my least favorite things about this new NWA. I could totally appreciate the CW deal. I wish that pay-per-view still existed because I'd gladly pay to watch the pay-per-view and, pay $20 or $30 to watch the pay-per-view in one night and have a natural stopping and starting for the NWA. I feel like with the way that the TV is presented, you don't ever actually have a stopping point. It doesn't stop. It continues to roll. We keep getting new episodes. And there's nothing, I mean, I love getting more content, especially content that I don't have to pay for, but I feel like it hurts the NWA by not having a stopping point. Everything leads up to a pay-per-view. You have the pay-per-view, and then boom, Tuesday, it's all brand new. But now it feels like you have that pay-per-view as part of your TV. It just doesn't stop. It just keeps going. So I don't know. Make it make sense and win. Exactly, Rosville. He should be in AEW. I think we're talking about Scott D'Amore. NWA is doing well in Tampa. Good for them. Yeah, I mean, look, Tampa seems to be a good spot for their TV tapings. They weren't really hitting it in Nashville. Atlanta was great, but they had issues with that building. So maybe Tampa is the place for them to be. And I don't hate that. TK needs to step back and let Scott take the reins. I wouldn't hate that either, Paladin. And look, I don't even think you need to have TK step back, but maybe have TK do Dynamite, and you could have Scott D'Amore handle Collision. Maybe treat it like two different companies, SmackDown and Raw. The Punk security snafu, that was pretty. God needs to go to Malibu Pass. It's just chill shit. Chill with Britt Baker and Anna Jay. Doty, oh man, that's tough, right? Because money. Look, at this point, Vince doesn't need to do anything, right? Vince, probably what's best for Vince is just going away. But when you think of the grand scheme of things of pro wrestling, Vince knows more about building an audience than any of us do. And if anyone could take the NWA to a different level, I'm sure Vince probably could, especially if he got his money involved and really spent. But I would pass on Vince buying the NWA just because I think that would be the ultimate, this is no longer the NWA. It's just, I think if Vince or even the WWE, if they were to buy the NWA, I think that would be it for me. I think it would come to an end, at least for me. I'm sure Adam Cole and Jack Perry won't mind. Maybe. a lot of these areas are now coming up, and people in more and more areas like India have money to spend. So the right combination of wrestling and company and structure could do good in those areas. Yes, I'm sure, James, I know you're very educated when it comes to business, and there is the BRIC, the Brazil, Russia, India, China. Of course, India and Brazil seemingly have no issue with the U.S. I know there's problems with the U.S. and Russia, and problems, of course, with U.S. and China. So I don't know how any of this stuff would work out internationally. But yeah, there is more money in these areas than there had been in the past. And that means that there's more opportunity for ancillary entertainment. You know, when there is no money, there is no opportunity to have entertainment. That's a luxury. And when the luxury becomes more readily available, people more inclined to buy. And it's just, yeah, I think like, especially in a place like India, that would probably be a good idea. It's like, it's kind of like to me, it's like if you could figure out a way to do the NWA the way that they're doing the NWA, and then do live events in China, in Russia, in India, in Brazil, in any of these places, and then have the footage that they're shooting for Power and all this stuff, basically air in those local markets with, the dubbed over voiceovers. Man, I think that would be such a killer business idea. No, Vince McMahon should not buy the NWA. It's like being on the cruise ship Titanic. Should the NWA or other small companies could do with hard work? Yeah, exactly. Yes. I agree with that, James. Did you ever get a refund or compensation for losing on? No, nobody did. And that's the thing. Like, that's where we have to be careful as consumers, is because we never bought the product. We only bought the rights to watch the product, and once those rights expired, we lost our rights. And that was never really like formulated that way. But if we go through the red tape, that's basically what it is. Natty Neidhart and Tyson Kidd were spotted backstage during the NWA TV tapings, and Billy Corgan invited them. I wonder. I would love to see Natty get a run in the NWA. I know her WWE contract is coming close to expiring, and I'm sure they'll probably re-sign her because she's phenomenal. And when her in-ring career is done, I'm sure she could become an agent for the WWE, even maybe a trainer at the Performance Center. But man, if she's not willing to go when they say it's time for her to go, I would love to see Natty Neidhart in the NWA. Could you imagine Natty Neidhart being NWA Women's World Champion? I mean, talk about instant credibility. And then her having matches with the gals like Missa Kate or Natalia Markova, or Ella Envy or Kenzie Page or Ruthie J. I mean, that would be amazing. It would be fun. God needs to leave TV, come back with a new look and a new haircut. If TK bought the NWA, it would mostly stay the same, like Ring of Honor. Vince would rape it, then shut it down. Yeah. Yes, Brazil is part of BRICS. I think it's just BRIC, though. I don't think it's a plural. Joe Kazana should buy the NWA. Now you're talking, Willie. I don't think Joe Kazana has that kind of money, but man. Okay. How about Freddie Prinze Jr. buys the NWA? Let's get realistic. How about Scott D'Amore and Freddie Prinze Jr. buy the NWA? Put their money together, get some sponsors behind it. That'd be exciting. NXT on CW. How will it affect the NWA and international WWE fans? Dave Scooby, I don't think it's going to affect the international fans, because I'm sure that WWE will have it in their clause where that they can show those other episodes on the WWE network, which would be available outside of the US on Netflix. So I believe, like, outside of the North America, the WWE content is available via Netflix, and I'm sure that's where international audiences will watch NXT. And got to remember, WWE is going to throw their weight around way more than the NWA is going to. So just because the NWA gets special addendums to their contract, I don't think that the CW would offer the same to the NWA. I'd be pissed for all the bootleg stuff. There's stuff I made with my money back. Yeah, at one point, before they canceled everything on YouTube, I was recording those episodes and putting them on a hard drive. Unfortunately, I didn't keep doing it because I didn't think it was going to stop on the Triller, and I kind of regret not keeping it going because all that stuff is gone. I have a few pay-per-views somewhere, but yeah, it sucks, but that's the way it is. I mean, that's we don't own anything, and that's the man is making sure we don't. They don't want you to own it. Music used to be you'd go buy a CD or a record or a tape. Nowadays, you listen to it on Spotify, and you can listen to it on Spotify without commercials by paying $10.99 a month. And that's how corporate America wants you to do everything. They don't want you to buy the movie. They want you to have a subscription so you could watch it. And then once you stop paying for that subscription, then you don't get to watch it anymore. You always will be paying for it. Is Freddie still starting his promotion? He wanted to build it around MJF. I don't know. I don't know what Freddie Prinze is doing. I know at one point he was supposed to be backing the wrestling. I think it was like the WNN wrestling. It was like a pay-per-view streaming site. And then I don't know what's happening with that anymore. That's why they won't get rid of physical media, so we don't own nothing. Yeah, that's why you need to keep buying physical media. Noob says, I'm looking forward to next week's episode of Power where Markova takes on Kenzie Page for the women's title. Yeah. I would like to see that match too. Of course, tonight we have some exciting matches. I wasn't able to find graphics for all of them, but I will pull up the ones that I was able to find. Of course, on this episode, we have, the Blunt Force Trauma, Aron Stevens, Taylor Rising, and Tim Storm on the graphic. What's interesting to me about that is, look what the NWA think is the most marketable, right? They're using Blunt Force Trauma with Aron Stevens on the cover. They're using Taylor Wilde on the cover. Not Taylor Wilde, excuse me, Taylor Rising. And they're using Tim Storm on the cover, which means that they're telling you that the people that they find most marketable are those 5 individuals on the show, not the Fixers, not the Immortals, and not Miss Star. It's just kind of interesting when you think about it, because this is a big tag team match. Aron Stevens managing Blunt Force Trauma, Damage and Carnage taking on former NWA World Tag Team Champion Kratos and his partner Odinson, the former U.S. Tag Champs. And the thing that's interesting about this is, I guess, much like the world title and Thrillbilly, that they are taking the U.S. tag titles off of Kratos and Odinson, which I don't understand. Why do they have to sacrifice one set of titles for the other? This is only native to the NWA. I've never seen this in any other promotion, except for maybe the WMAC Fighters, where you had to surrender the Dragon Belt to challenge for the other title. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you're the tag team champions, you're the U.S. champions. Why do you have to surrender those titles? Why can't you keep them? Why can't you keep those titles and then defend? And if you win, okay, then you can forfeit the titles. But if you don't win, you're still U.S. tag champions. I don't see why you do that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Let's see if it's Palin says thoughts on Rosie's new Marigold Joshi promotion. I think it's a smart move. They took away his power in Stardom, and he still has the right relationships with the right people and is still good at finding talent. So it seems like it's a good idea to me. And he wants to have a close relationship with the WWE, almost like a farm system. And so it's like, okay, all right, I'm all right with that. And that just means we're going to see some top tier talent, maybe get opportunities in NXT. Maybe some women like Natty Neihart could make her trip to Japan. And, there's a lot of talent in the WWE that aren't seeing a lot of TV time. So somebody like Natty Neihart could really, I'm not saying benefit, because I think she doesn't need to do anything to be good. I think she's just good. But I think it would help her legacy by being a part of that promotion. And, There's other women like Shayna Baylor who could, again, help her legacy by being a part of that, or the up and coming talents that are in NXT, or look, Bianca Belair or Jade Cargill. I mean, all of these ladies could really shine outside of a WWE ring in Japan, and I think it's it's still a good fit, a good mix. I think. I only watch NWA for the women now. They're carrying the company. I mean, I still like a lot of things about the NWA Paladin, and that's cool that's where you sleep at. That doesn't sound right. That's where you eat at. That's you like the women's division. That's a great division. I still very much enjoy the NWA all across the board, but there's nothing wrong with the women's division. I just feel like Max being TV champion for both the men and women kind of hurt the kind of bottleneck that whole division, and it's kind of hard for other women to shine that aren't Kenzie Page or the King Bees. No, bro, I don't go under that. That's deviant. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Kratos and Odinson, former U.S. tag champs. Did I miss something? They lost to whom? Or another title dropping for another challenge again? Yeah, Dodie, it seems as though, and I didn't see it either, but I do know that they announced a tournament for the U.S. tag team titles, and that is the other match that's on tonight is the Fixers. Jay Bradley and Wreckingball and Bradley will take on Tim Storm and a mystery partner. And it's like, well, first of all, wasn't Jax Dane his tag team partner? Where did Jax go? Did Jax not make these tapings? Because Jax Dane and Tim Storm versus the Fixers sound like a hell of a match that I would love to see. But as far as I know, they didn't really explain it. Maybe they will tonight. I haven't watched this episode of Power yet, so it remains to be seen. But I'm excited about it. How old is Neidhart now? Women can't keep wrestling as long as men. She's 41, I think, 40 or 41. And I would never tell Natty Neidhart she can't do anything. That woman is she's a damn good wrestler and looks great. When people look embarrassing in the ring, that's when I'll tell them to step out. Ric Flair, Ricky Morton, Rick Steiner. Should I keep going? It was like Samoa Joe had to lay down the Ring of Honor title in the middle of the ring when he wanted to challenge for the AEW World title. I mean, I guess. Why? I think, in my mind, I grew up in the 80s. I remember seeing Warrior and Hogan in WrestleMania 6, and Warrior challenged Hogan for the title, and when he won, he held both titles. And they did the same thing with Goldberg in WCW years later. And before that, I mean, there was always the TV champion would challenge Ric Flair. The U.S. champion would challenge Ric Flair. And they never stripped them of their titles to do that. I do like the Kenzie Page video packaging calling out Natalia Markova. She's pretty much right about everything, including Billy Corgan gave Markova everything and then dropped the ball on her. Yeah. Women in Japan and Mexico wrestle way past 40. Yeah, that's true, Chris, but also some of them shouldn't. Some of them. To me, it devalues your title. It's like, I don't want the titles. I want the better ones. Yeah, James, I could see that too, but I think in the sport of pro wrestling, right? Taking it back to the basic minimum, Ric Flair, to be the man, you got to beat the man, right? Woo! The World's Heavyweight Championship should be the prize that everybody wants. Whether you're wrestling in the men's division or women's division, to be the person on top is where you should be trying to be. But I don't feel like you should have to hand in your belt to challenge for the other one. In the years past for the NWA, and I know this is Billy Corgan's NWA, but in the years past, your number one contender was the North American champion. Your number two contender was the national champion. And that's how it was always set. World champion, North American champion was your number one contender. Your national champion was your number two contender. And then it was whoever was hot as the company champion, whether it be, for the NWA in Hollywood, it was the Heritage champion. For the NWA in Georgia, it was the NWA Anarchy champion, or the Mountain State champion, or the Smoky Mountain champion, or whatever it was. That title had some sort of significance. they were ranked on essentially popularity and what was more visible. But, I think that the title means more when the best wrestlers are vying for it. I didn't like the way Joe threw the title away like trash, then have a tournament for his garbage. That's the only time TK has ever done that. It devalues the belt. Yeah, I hate that. I don't like the devaluation of the title, but I also feel like, the top prize should be the top prize. So what else have we got going on here in the NWA? Of course, the TV tapings just wrapped up over the weekend. We won't see those results until after Hard Times finishes up. We're in week 2 of what I believe is a 4-part series for the NWA for Hard Times. We know that there is another event coming up on April the 26th for Joe Kazana Promotions. Harem Heat, one of the matches announced was Axton Ray and Gustavo versus Weaver and The Pain. The other matches that had been announced and the graphics don't look as good, so I apologize in advance. But you also have for the JCP Southern Eastern Heavyweight Championship, you got Jay Bradley, Silas Mason also in action. You have the Country Gentlemen taking on the Southern Six. So that all looks really good. And then, of course, May 3rd, you have back in Chicago. The only match that I think has been advertised thus far is Mims challenging EC3 for the 10 pounds of gold. Then we also have, I'm almost positive there is another event going on in Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio in May as part of Exodus Pro. But then we have another event on Friday, May 10th in Sunbright, Tennessee, is Showdown at Sunbright with Joe Kazana Promotions. And then, of course, that would take us to the Crockett Cup, which your boy Jay is going to be there. I'm going to be at the Crockett Cup with DKM. We're going to yell at some clouds, eat some barbecue, and watch Sam Adonis take on EC3 for the 10 pounds of gold. And, of course, the Crockett Cup tournament. They haven't listed any names for that tournament yet, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens and what comes next. I think it's going to be a lot of fun when that happens. Of course, the Crockett Cup. It's going to be a very different night of wrestling because the Crockett Cup for the past, several years, 2023, 2022, and back in 2019, the Crockett Cup featured a 2-night tag team tournament. Actually, I guess the Crockett Cup 2019 was a single night, but the last 2 years had been a 2-night tournament. They do not have the luxury of having a 2-night tournament. They're doing it all one night in Forney, Texas. And I don't know who the teams are going to be. I mean, you would have to imagine that Blunt Force Trauma will be there because they're the tag team champions. You got to imagine the Immortals will be there because they're still a dominant tag team for the NWA. They might be the tag team champions after tonight. Then you look at the roster. I mean, the Country Gentlemen. You've got Idol Mania Sports Management what's his name? Zion and I can't remember his name. The former Country Gentleman. Can't think of his name. Skip it. And then you've got teams like Mims and Dak Draper, if they're still teaming together. Then, there's teams that are emerging from the territories. You've got the Stew Crew. You've got the, I'm drawing blanks on team names. The Heat, what are they called? Not Midnight Heat. The Southern Six, forgot about the Southern Six. What is that tag team name? Heat Seekers. There we go. Heat Seekers. And then, and there's teams like that. The Kids that have come out recently. The the booger guys. I can never remember their names. The Snots. I don't know. I don't remember their name. I'm just terrible at this. So there are a bunch of tag teams that are kind of emerging to the front. We'll see if they'll be a part of the Crockett Cup. heat seekers. That's what I was trying to say. I do hope that we do see some Texas tag teams. Of course, I mean, I'm going to pop if Marshall and Ross end up at the event with the Von Erich brothers. Dave Scooby brings up a great point that there are no real NWA challengers for EC3 right now. And that's something that I've been talking about very frequently, is that the problem with ECW's reign as world's heavyweight champion is they just haven't built a star up to be an adequate opponent for him. You know, Jax Dane certainly has the repertoire, but they didn't build him up. Tom Latimer is an excellent challenger, still has not been built up. And they haven't built anybody up. And everybody that EC3 faces, like, his title's never in peril because no one's good enough to take the belt off of him. Okay, so Sam Adonis is coming in. Sam Adonis is doing gangbusters in Mexico right now. Fans are going wild for this guy, and not in like it's heat. He's got all the heat in the world in Mexico, but that doesn't translate to an NWA ring. It doesn't make the NWA any better. And I like Sam Adonis. I don't see how him challenging EC3 makes this a great title match. They did nothing to build it up. Adonis is great. Okay. What's his story? Why is he challenging for the 10 pounds of gold? Why does he even get a match? He's nobody in the NWA. We haven't seen him in 3 years. The last time I saw him, he was Jamie Stanley's tag team partner. Why is he getting an opportunity to wrestle for the 10 pounds of gold? If you're going to put anybody from Mexico in this match, I mean, how about Daga? If you're going to go with guys from Mexico, what about Pagano? Pagano has a victory over your former world champion, Trevor Murdoch. If you're going to put someone from Mexico in this position, how about one of the guys who used to hold a world title? What about El Patron? I'm not a big Alberto fan, but you know, he had WWE name, he had a WWE recognition. He's a former WWE world champion. If you're going to go that route, why not someone with some credibility? And I'm not trying to poop on Adonis again. Like, I think Adonis is a great talent, but if you're going to put him in that opportunity, build him up. Let's bring him in for a couple episodes of Power. Let's have him beat some big name guys to get this shot. Otherwise, you're just throwing titles in there. Just giving him a match just because. If you're going to do that, put him in the ring with Tom Latimer. At least that title isn't as important as the 10 pounds of gold. And shit, Latimer could have a good match with anybody. Latimer could wrestle a broomstick and it would be good. I don't mean to go off on that every week, but I feel like I have to. I feel the 2-night was very costly for Billy flying all those teams in from other promotions. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's that too. There has to be. Plus doing the 2 nights live. Yeah, I mean, in the production and everything else, I get that. Noob says there's no real challengers for Kenzie Page. There, you know, it's the same thing. Like there's talents there. They need to be built up. If it's Misa Kate, if it's Ruthie J, if it's Talia Markova, at least they're trying to build up Markova on the last season of Power. They put her in a match where she had to win a number 1 contendership and then showed her as an actual threat to Pretty Empowered. And now that they're having the match, I just wish they did more to build her up. Give her some more wins. Instead of a number 1 contenders match, just have a star emerge as the top contender by beating other people. What about Thrillbilly challenging EC3 for the World Heavyweight Championship? Well, we'll see that at Hard Times. And if he is successful, then the story changes to EC3 or Thrillbilly versus all these other talents. But as of right now, I just don't see it happening with Thrillbilly. I don't see him, again, beating EC3. Again, they're trying to make us care about it, but him surrendering the title is not really making me care about it. Thrillbilly's a good enough wrestler that have him go out there and beat the shit out of some people. I'm coming for you, EC3. Boom, I just beat this guy. Boom, I just beat that guy. I want to be world champion, EC3. You're ducking me, bro. It's simple as that. It's not that hard. You don't have to make it rocket science. But that's our time for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you missed the beginning of the show, go back and rewatch it because I could definitely benefit from the views. Hey, we will be here tomorrow. The other Alliance guys, that'll be Dave Scooby and Championship Wrestling with Jeremy, as they will talk all things MLW, United Wrestling Network, and more. And then on Thursday, it'll be a special treat because it'll be the Alliance guys, but it won't be this Alliance guy. I'm taking the day off. I'm going to go see a concert with my wife, and we're going to have fun. It's going to be lovely. But I do appreciate you guys being here each and every Tuesday. It does mean a lot to me. Next week, we're going to have some more interviews coming up. I'll be interviewing a promoter of Epic Pro Wrestling Los Angeles. And then, of course, all your regularly scheduled content. We do appreciate you guys making us a part of your Tuesday viewing habits. And if you jump on our Discord right now, the link is in the video description. I'm going to put on this week's episode of POWERRR. So I hope you guys will join us for that. And until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for checking out the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA POWERRR every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time,